in the middle of the vast ocean, where waves continuously beat against the boat like endless drumbeats. Hidden deep under the opaque salt water is the silhouette of one of the most majestic creatures that has ever existed on Earth, the giant whale. These giant creatures with bodies tens of meters long, weighing tens of tons, moving silently like ocean gods, evoke both mystery and make people shiver because of the hidden power within. Hundreds of years ago, people could not resist the attraction of this creature, and in Asia, the cradle of long-standing fishing cultures, whale hunting is not simply an act of survival, but also a traditional ritual, an inseparable part of the life of coastal fishermen. In Indonesia and the Philippines, fishermen in coastal villages also have a tradition of whale hunting, although not as bustling as in Japan, but with a strong indigenous character. On Lembata Island, Indonesia, the villages of Lamalera continue a centuries-old tradition, hunting whales with their bare hands. Without modern machinery, electronic nets or fish-finding radar, they have only long wooden boats with rudimentary oars and harpoons attached to ropes. When a whale is spotted, the entire fleet accelerates. One man dives from the bow onto the whale's back with a steel spear in hand. Stabbing hard into the skin as thick as concrete, a precise stab can disorient the whale, but it can also kill the fisherman if the animal drags him into the deep ocean. They accept this risk as part of their destiny. When a giant whale is killed, boats from all over the village come together to pull the carcass to shore. The scene is as grand as a festival. Everyone from old to young participates in the butchering process, a job that requires considerable skill and strength. The skin is peeled off first, thick and slippery like rubber soaked in seawater. Underneath the skin is fat, ivory yellow, soft as butter, cut into large blocks to be boiled down to make oil. Whale fat is as precious as gold to the people, because it is used for lighting, cooking, medicine and trading with traders. The fish meat is sliced, dried or salted to preserve, and becomes the main dish for the next several months. The whale's huge entrails are not wasted either. The liver, heart, and intestines are all cleaned and used, although the strong fishy smell sometimes keeps strangers away. However, whale hunting is not always successful. Many times, adult whales weighing tens of tons have overturned boats, dragging entire teams of hunters to the bottom of the ocean. The people of Lamalera village have creepy legends about revengeful whales, who remember people's faces and return many years later to repay their blood debts. These stories breathe life into the island culture, making whale hunting not only a labor but also a spiritual one. Before each trip, village chiefs held a ceremony to worship the sea god, praying for forgiveness and protection. When the last fish was butchered, blood stained the shore, and people knelt before the sea, muttering thanks to the ocean for giving them life. The development of technology brought about significant changes in whaling activities in Asia. Instead of wooden boats, larger, faster iron ships were born. Sonar and long-range radar equipment were equipped to detect whales from great maritime distances. Steel spears were replaced by harpoons, a weapon that fired sharp iron hooks attached to ropes, which could pierce the thick layer of blubber and hold the whales. Despite protests from wildlife conservation groups, many Asian communities persist in their whaling traditions. For them, it is a right to survive, to preserve their cultural identity, Old fishermen in Taiji, Lamalera or in coastal villages in Okinawa still tell their children legendary stories about whales that were taken down after hours of chasing. They talk about days when they pulled in their nets with no fish. Only rain and wind, but when a whale appeared, the whole village came alive. The smell of blood, the sound of knives cutting meat, smoke rising from pots of fat, all become memories associated with childhood. With an entire community. Today, giant whales have become symbols of the controversy between conservation and tradition. But if you have ever witnessed the scene of people dragging whale carcasses to shore, witnessed hundreds of people working together to cut the meat, cut the fat, and cook the oil, you will understand, this is not simply an act of slaughter, but an entire culture, a way of life that has been forged over centuries. In their eyes, whales are not just animals, but a part of the ocean's flesh and blood. And also their own flesh and blood. With all respect and traditional skills, Asian fishermen continue the story with this giant fish, writing vivid chapters of history in the middle of the ocean. Giant whales, whether in legend or reality, are still symbols of sacredness, linked to the fate of millions of people living along the coast. And no matter how the future changes, no matter how technology develops, the image of fishermen standing on the edge of the boat, holding a spear firmly and looking out to the deep ocean, will live forever in the minds of those who have been attached to the sea. They live in the rhythm of the waves, in the sound of the wind whistling through the thatched roofs every morning, and in the salty smell of salt seeping into every crevice of their clothes. For Asian fishermen, whales are not only giant creatures but also symbols of resilience, sacrifice and community spirit. Each whale hunt is like an ancient dance, where humans and nature meet in a life and death battle, but respectfully. Not as cruel as outsiders might think. After the whale is killed, the butchering process is extremely strict and elaborate. People must determine the correct position to cut first to avoid damaging the precious layer of fat or spilling blood into the sea, causing pollution. From the first strokes, layers of fat as thick as soap bars are cut off, piled up into blocks like ice. This fat is then put into a giant cooking pot, heated with large firewood for many hours to extract the fragrant, golden fish oil, considered a precious material not only for food but also for the cosmetics and pharmaceutical industries. A pot of oil can feed an entire family during the long, harsh winter. Whale meat, especially the red meat near the back, is cut into large pieces, carefully preserved in sea salt or dried in the traditional way. In Japan, whale meat is processed into many dishes: sashimi, grilled meat, steamed or even thinly sliced raw whale served with wasabi soy sauce. In Korea, whale meat is also considered a high-class dish, served in luxury restaurants, sometimes costing more than Wagyu beef. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, the people of Lamalera village often cook the fish meat with coconut water. Herbs and hot peppers to keep their bodies warm, especially during the cold winter wind season. However, there are still many coastal areas that cannot give up this activity. The reason is not only for livelihood, but also because they do not want to lose the sacred connection between humans and the sea. In the eyes of the elders, whales are not victims, but partners, part of the game of survival among countless natural elements. They do not kill whales out of greed, but out of necessity, and that makes the story different from the mass commercial exploitation of the West in the past. Every time a whale is killed, its blood mixes with the waves, carried away by the tide, and at the same time, hundreds of children in the village watch the process like an initiation ceremony. They learn how to sharpen knives, how to separate fat from meat, how to stack huge blocks of meat on carts, how to divide the products equally among the whole village. No one is left behind. Even though they can't read or write, those children understand clearly, the life of a whale is what sustains the entire community. No one can deny that killing a large, gentle creature like a whale always creates a bitter feeling. But if you once set foot in remote fishing villages where people still cut whales with their bare hands, sharing each piece of fat, each drop of oil, you will understand, this is not cruelty, but existence. Not everyone has a choice. Not everyone lives in cities with electricity, water, supermarkets, fish markets, in a place where a storm can sweep away an entire fortune. Where fish is the only food, whales become a miracle, a gift of survival from the blue ocean. And that is why, in each stroke of the knife to cut a whale, people are not just cutting a piece of meat, but continuing a chain of memories. A culture that has been around for hundreds of years and will not be forgotten. They cut a part of history, melted a part of the soul of the ocean, and passed it on to the next generation as a message, live gratefully. Be respectful, and always listen to the voice of the ocean. The modern world may change. International regulations, science, tourism, and global public opinion may make whaling a strange thing. But in the hearts of those who live along the coasts of Asia, the giant whale will always be a symbol, not only a symbol of life, but also a symbol of gratitude, of culture, of the bond between humans and harsh nature. Maybe one day, whaling will end completely, but the stories of that giant fish, the legends, the work songs, the rituals to honor the sea god, will always exist, because they live not only in the flesh and blood of whales, but also in the hearts of people, in every grain of salt on their skin, in every scar on the backs of old fishermen, and in every wave that never sleeps in the ocean. Each giant whale has fed many generations, becoming a symbol of sacrifice and wonder in the ocean. The scars on the old fishermen's hands are proof of the many times they have faced the waves and the anger of the ocean. Each time they butcher a whale, they not only share food, but also hope and faith. Meals with whale meat are times when the whole family gathers, tells old stories, and mentions the names of the deceased. Children grow up with the image of whales as heroes of the sea. Both legendary and chillingly real. Nowhere else but in those fishing villages are whales worshipped as gods but still killed to survive. A beautiful, painful, and humane paradox. Even though whales are no longer hunted, those stories will still be told forever around the fire. Because whales do not die, they are incarnated into memories, into culture, and into the indomitable spirit of the people who live with the ocean. Whales, forever a part of the soul of the Asian seas.